Have you ever heard the story of one person stopping an entire war? Not with an army, not with a weapon, but with just the power of their words. In the long and often turbulent history of Southeast Asia, where kingdoms rose and fell and wars were a constant shadow, there's a legendary tale that shines as a beacon of peace. It's the story of a single humble monk who walked onto a battlefield and, through sheer moral force, prevented a catastrophic conflict. Let's set the scene. Imagine two powerful kingdoms, perhaps the mighty Khmer Empire and the rising Siamese kingdom of Ayutthaya, or maybe Siam and its neighbor, Lanshan. For centuries, these realms were locked in a cycle of conflict. They fought over territory, over control of vital trade routes, and over matters of royal pride and succession. Wars were brutal, and they left a trail of destruction, famine, and immense suffering in their wake. When one war ended, it often just planted the seeds for the next. In this particular era, tensions had reached a boiling point. Diplomatic channels had crumbled, and angry words had been exchanged between the royal courts. Spies and scouts brought back grim news. Massive armies were being mobilized. Thousands of soldiers, armed with swords, spears, and war elephants, were marching toward the border. The air was thick with the anticipation of battle. For the common people living in the borderlands, it was a time of pure terror. They knew what was coming. Their villages would be burned, their crops destroyed, and their families torn apart. War was inevitable, or so it seemed, but then an unexpected figure emerged. He wasn't a king or a general. He was a Buddhist monk. This wasn't just any monk, though. He was a man renowned throughout both kingdoms for his profound wisdom, unwavering discipline, and deep compassion. For years, he had traveled the lands, teaching the core principles of Buddhism: non-violence, the sanctity of all life, and the futility of hatred. His reputation was so immense that even kings and nobles sought his counsel. He was seen as a living embodiment of peace, a spiritual authority who transcended political boundaries. As news of the impending war reached his remote monastery, the monk knew he could not stand by and watch the slaughter unfold. He made a decision that most would consider insane. He would go to the front lines himself. With nothing but his simple saffron robe, his alms bowl, and a walking staff, he set out on foot. He walked for days, barefoot, across rugged terrain, driven by a singular purpose: to stand between the two armies. When he finally arrived at the border, the scene was exactly as he had feared. Two immense forces were camped on opposite sides of a field, a sea of banners, armor, and sharpened steel glinting in the sun. The tension was palpable. The slightest provocation could trigger a bloodbath. Without a moment's hesitation, the monk walked directly into the no-man's land between the two armies. He sat down in the middle of the field in a meditative posture, closed his eyes, and began to chant softly. He became an island of perfect stillness in an ocean of impending violence. The soldiers on both sides were stunned. Who was this lone figure, daring to place himself in the path of war? As word spread through the ranks, A wave of disbelief and awe washed over the armies. It was the revered monk. The news quickly reached the generals and then the kings themselves, who were present to lead their troops. Their immediate reaction was a mix of shock and confusion. How could they possibly start the battle now? This is where the monk's true power came into play. In these Buddhist kingdoms, religion was not just a part of life. It was the very foundation of society and morality. A highly respected monk was considered a spiritual treasure. To harm such a person, or even to be indirectly responsible for their death, was an unthinkable act. It would bring a terrible karmic burden, not just upon the individual responsible, but upon the entire kingdom. The soldiers believed it would lead to droughts, famines, and spiritual disaster. No king, no matter how ambitious or vengeful, would risk invoking such a curse upon his people and his dynasty. The monk's presence had created a moral and spiritual checkmate. Forced into a stalemate, the two kings had no choice but to emerge from their royal tents and approach the monk. They stood before him, leaders of vast armies, now humbled by this single unarmed man. The monk opened his eyes and spoke. His voice was not loud, but it carried a weight that silenced the entire battlefield. He didn't speak of politics or borders. Instead, he spoke of shared humanity. He reminded the kings of their sacred duty to protect their people, not lead them to slaughter. He painted a vivid picture of the suffering that war would bring: the orphaned children, the grieving widows, the fields salted with blood instead of rice. He asked them, what victory is worth the price of 1,000 mothers' tears? What territory is worth more than the lives of the young men who stand ready to die for you? He spoke of the universal law of karma, reminding them that the violence they were about to unleash would inevitably return to them and their kingdoms in other forms. His words were not a threat, but a profound spiritual truth that resonated deeply with everyone who heard them. As he spoke, something incredible began to happen. The soldiers, who minutes before had been filled with battle rage, started to lower their weapons. The anger and hatred that had fueled the conflict began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of shame and reflection. They looked across the field, not at enemies, but at other men just like them, who had families and feared death. The monk's powerful appeal to their shared faith and common humanity had broken the spell of war. The kings, moved by his wisdom and faced with the shifting mood of their own armies, agreed to talk. The monk acted as the mediator. He guided them away from the language of conflict and toward the language of resolution. Over the next few hours, what had been a declaration of war transformed into a negotiation for peace. An agreement was reached. Perhaps they redefined the border, agreed to a prisoner exchange, or opened up new trade arrangements that would benefit both sides. The armies that had gathered to destroy each other would now be sent home. The war was over before a single drop of blood was shed. The monk, his work done, simply stood up, bowed to the kings, and began his long walk back to his monastery. His legacy, however, was cemented forever. He became a legendary figure, a symbol of the power of peace and compassion. His story was passed down through generations, told in royal chronicles, depicted in intricate murals on temple walls, and kept alive in the oral traditions of the people. To this day, some temples in the region claim to hold relics associated with him or have statues dedicated to his memory, forever honoring the monk who stopped a war. So why does this story still matter so much today? It's a powerful reminder that history is not just shaped by kings and generals. Spiritual and moral leaders can wield an immense influence, capable of changing the course of nations. It shows us the deep cultural power of ideals like nonviolence and compassion, and how they can be a stronger force than any army. Most importantly, it's a timeless testament to the idea that one person, armed with nothing but courage and conviction, can indeed make a world of difference. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from history that you might not have heard before. Let me know in the comments what you think about the power of a single individual to create change. See you in the next video.